Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Eco of Life. Let's start. There is a story about someone who once tried to hold water in their hands. They cupped their palms tightly, desperate not to lose a single drop. But the tighter they squeezed, the faster the water trickled away. Finally, exhausted, they opened their hands completely. And only then did they realize that the water resting lightly in their palms was enough. This is the quiet paradox of letting go. You cannot hold peace while clutching what hurts. You cannot move forward while gripping the past with trembling fingers. Most of us do not realize the weight of our attachments until life asks us to release them. We hold on to people, to roles, to dreams that once felt right but no longer fit. We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, love more deeply, or explain more clearly, we can mend what is already gone. Yet letting go is not failure. It is psychological evolution. Our minds are wired to resist loss. Behavioral psychology shows that the pain of losing something is often felt twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining something new, a principle called loss aversion. This is why we linger in relationships that drain us, remain in jobs that no longer inspire us, or repeat cycles that have already ended. We confuse familiarity with safety, and safety, even when it stifles, can feel easier than the unknown. Letting go begins when you recognize that clinging is a form of fear. Fear that, without what you are holding, you will not know who you are. Fear that the empty space left behind will never be filled. But what if that space is not meant to be filled right away? What if it is meant to breathe, to heal, to make room for something wiser? Psychologists speak of identity attachment, the way we tie our sense of self to external things, our roles, our relationships, our possessions, our memories. When these change, it can feel as though we are losing a part of ourselves. That is why endings hurt so deeply. It is not just the loss of a person or a dream. It is the loss of the version of you that existed alongside them, the self that once felt like it belonged. But here is what is rarely said. Letting go is not a single moment. It is a process, almost neurological. When you release something, your brain must rewire its expectations. The mind dislikes blank spaces. It searches for patterns, for closure, for meaning. That is why we replay conversations, imagine alternate endings, or wonder what we could have done differently. We are not weak for doing this. We are human. We crave coherence. Yet healing does not happen through explanation. It happens through acceptance. Acceptance does not mean agreement. It means ending the argument between reality and imagination. It means saying, "This is what happened," rather than, "This should not have happened." That shift from resistance to recognition changes everything. There is something profoundly psychological about surrender. Neuroscience suggests that acceptance can reduce activity in the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear and emotional alarm. When we let go, we are not giving up. We are turning down the inner volume that keeps us trapped in fight or flight. That is why peace feels quiet. It is not the absence of emotion, but its recalibration. Imagine standing before a door you have tried to open for years. You have twisted the handle, knocked, pleaded, but it never opened. Then one day you finally step back, not in defeat, but in realization. You see that the door was not locked to punish you. It was closed to protect you from the wrong room. That is often what letting go is. Understanding that closure does not always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from walking away. Yet we rarely walk away without guilt. Guilt whispers that we are betraying someone. Shame tells us we should have done more. Hope argues that maybe one day things will return. And so we wait, half alive in emotional limbo. Psychologists call this ambiguous loss, mourning something that has not fully ended or something that ended without clarity. It is one of the hardest forms of grief because there is no ceremony for what could have been. To truly let go, you must learn emotional differentiation, separating what you feel from what is true. You can miss someone and still know they are not meant for you. You can grieve a past version of yourself while embracing the one you are becoming. You can love a memory without trying to bring it back to life. That is emotional maturity, holding contradictions without collapsing beneath them. Many believe letting go means losing compassion. It does not. It means loving from a distance that protects your peace. It means saying, I wish you well without needing to walk the same path anymore. Compassion without attachment is not coldness. It is clarity, and clarity can feel strange at first because it is calm. We are accustomed to emotional noise. We mistake chaos for connection. So when calm arrives, we may confuse it with emptiness. But peace is not the absence of emotion. It is the absence of reaction. It is the point where you no longer feel the need to prove, justify, or chase. You will know you are beginning to let go when you stop rehearsing old scenes. When your energy shifts from trying to fix the past to understanding it. When your curiosity turns from, why did this happen? To, what can I learn from this? That is when wisdom begins, in the space between what was and what is next. There is a subtle truth in psychology. The mind heals through narrative. When we retell our pain with new meaning, we reclaim authorship. We stop being the victim of the story and become the narrator who understands its lesson. That is why journaling or speaking about experiences can help. It rewrites memory from a lens of survival to one of learning. In studies, people who wrote about emotional experiences for just 15 minutes a day showed increased well-being and decreased anxiety within weeks. Not because writing erased the pain, but because it organized it. Letting go, in this sense, is emotional organization, taking the chaos of memory and turning it into understanding. There is another layer to consider, the physical body. We store emotional tension in our muscles, our posture, our breath. That is why some people cry during yoga or after a long walk. The body remembers before the mind does. Letting go, then, is not only mental. It is somatic. It is unclenching the jaw, softening the shoulders, exhaling what you have been holding for too long. The psychology of letting go is also the psychology of trust. To release something, you must trust that life continues beyond it, that the unknown is not punishment, but potential. We forget this because loss distorts perspective. When something leaves, we imagine only emptiness ahead. But time often reveals that every ending quietly plants the seed of a beginning. Think of every heartbreak, every unfulfilled dream, every closed door that once broke you. You did not know then that it was guiding you elsewhere. You only saw the collapse, not the clearing it created. Letting go does not erase the past. It gives it purpose. Our attachment to control is another obstacle. We believe we can manage outcomes, that if we say the right thing or try hard enough, we can shape the future. But control is often an illusion built on fear. True strength lies not in forcing things to stay, but in trusting that what is meant to remain will remain without pressure. This is what some call non-attachment, engaging deeply, but without the need to possess. There is beauty in impermanence if we look closely. A sunset does not apologize for ending. A flower does not mourn when it wilts. We, too, can learn to honor moments for what they were, rather than resent them for not lasting longer. Every season has its time, and so do people, memories, and phases of ourselves. Sometimes the hardest person to let go of is not someone else, but a version of you that you have outgrown. The one who tolerated too much, or believed too little, or thought love had to be earned. Growth can feel like betrayal to your former self. But that is what evolution feels like. Uncomfortable honesty. Letting go is not about forgetting. It is about remembering differently. It is about looking back without wishing to return. It is realizing that the story still exists, but it no longer defines you. And when you reach that point, when your memories become soft rather than sharp, you know you have turned pain into wisdom. Sometimes you will think you have let go, until a song, a scent, or a random day brings it all back. That does not mean you have failed. Healing is not linear. It is cyclical. Each time the memory returns, it comes back a little lighter, a little less painful, until one day it is just a story, not a wound. That is the quiet miracle of human resilience. And perhaps that is the essence of life itself. Learning to hold and release in rhythm, to give deeply, to love fully, to mourn honestly, and then, when the time comes, to open your hands again. Letting go does not end the story. It simply turns the page. You cannot force yourself to forget, but you can choose how to remember. You can choose to see endings not as losses, but as transitions, the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. When you stop asking, why did it go? and start asking, what did it teach me? The entire landscape of your past transforms. Maybe that is the secret. The act of letting go is never really about the other person, the job, the city, or the moment. It is about reclaiming your freedom from the illusion that you needed them to be whole. You have always been whole. You just forgot for a while. There comes a point where you stop trying to go back and instead begin to walk forward, even if your legs are trembling. You stop asking if you did something wrong and start realizing that not everything broken was yours to fix. That moment, quiet and invisible, is when letting go turns into liberation. The human brain dislikes uncertainty. It wants closure, answers, clean endings. But life is full of commas, not periods. We carry half-finished stories inside us, sentences that will never end the way we imagined. And yet, in that unfinishedness, we find space to grow. Because when something leaves your life, it does not only take something from you. It also frees space for something you have not yet met. One of the hardest lessons is that closure is not something others give you. It is something you decide to create within yourself. Waiting for an apology that never comes, or a message that stays unsent, ties your peace to someone else's awareness. Letting go means releasing that expectation. It means saying, even without your words, I choose to heal. Many fear that if they let go, they will lose everything: memories, love, meaning. But the opposite is true. You keep the essence of what mattered, stripped of its pain. That is how emotional integration works. When we process our experiences instead of resisting them, raw pain converts into insight. The event does not vanish, but it transforms. It becomes part of your emotional intelligence, not your emotional injury. The world often tells us to move on. But moving on is not about pretending something did not matter. It is about admitting that it did, that it shaped you, that it carved depth into places you did not know existed. Growth does not erase history. It rewrites your relationship with it. Letting go also means forgiving yourself for not knowing better at the time. We judge our past selves as if they had the clarity we have now. But clarity is born from experience, not the other way around. You could not have made the choices you make today without living through the ones you may regret. That is not failure. It is feedback from your own evolution. There is a term in psychology called self-compassion. It is not just kindness, it is realism. It is saying, I was doing my best with the awareness I had. It is choosing to see yourself not as a villain or a victim, but as a human being learning to navigate impermanence. The truth is, the mind clings because it mistakes familiarity for safety. But holding on to what is gone keeps you rehearsing old fears instead of practicing new courage. You cannot step into tomorrow if one foot is still tied to yesterday. Think of your life as a river. Every person, every experience, every dream that comes along is like a leaf floating beside you. Some drift away gently. Others get caught in the current and disappear. You do not dive in after every leaf. You trust that the river knows where it is going. That is what emotional maturity looks like. Participating in life without drowning in it. Letting go is not passive. It is an active decision to stop fueling the thoughts that hurt you. It is choosing not to reopen the wound each morning by checking who moved on faster or dwelling on what could have been. The brain will always chase unfinished stories, but healing begins the moment you refuse to keep writing the same chapter. There is an old saying in cognitive psychology: neurons that fire together wire together. The more you replay something painful, the more your brain strengthens that emotional connection. But when you start redirecting your focus toward gratitude, toward learning, toward what is here now, you literally rewire your brain. You weaken the circuit of attachment and strengthen the circuit of peace. That is why mindfulness helps. It is not about sitting still. It is about observing without clinging. When you feel a wave of sadness or nostalgia, you acknowledge it instead of drowning in it. You say, here is that memory again, and let it pass. The more you practice this, the more your brain learns that emotion is temporary, not a command. Some days, letting go will feel easy, like a deep breath. Other days, it will feel like pulling roots from the earth. That is normal. Healing does not move in straight lines. It spirals. You revisit the same pain from higher levels of understanding until it no longer defines you. There is a quiet dignity in release. You stop chasing explanations and start appreciating the mystery of timing. You begin to see that some chapters do not close because they were wrong, but because you learned what they came to teach you. Every person, every season, every heartbreak leaves behind a mirror. You either spend your life staring into it, or you learn to see through it. What most people do not realize is that letting go does not always mean losing contact with someone. Sometimes it means changing the emotional contract. You stop expecting what they cannot give. You stop needing them to complete a sentence that was always yours to finish. It is not rejection. It is recalibration. And one day you will notice something subtle. You will drive past an old place and feel nothing but gratitude. You will hear a song that once broke you and simply hum along. You will remember a face that used to make your heart ache and smile instead. That is how you know you have healed, not when you forget, but when remembering no longer hurts. Psychologically, this is sometimes called emotional extinction. The neural pathways that once triggered pain lose their charge. The memory remains, but the suffering dissolves. It is proof that your brain can heal, that emotion is not permanent, and that peace is not found, it is practiced. Letting go also demands courage, because it means accepting that some stories will never make sense. Humans crave narrative closure, but life often refuses to provide it. People leave mid-sentence. Endings come without explanations. Sometimes there is no deeper meaning, only change. But there is beauty even in unanswered questions. They remind us that mystery is a part of being alive. When you stop searching for perfect closure, you open yourself to imperfect beginnings. You start seeing opportunities where grief once lived. You notice that life keeps moving, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Because if time stopped at every heartbreak, none of us would survive our first goodbye. There is also a collective side to letting go. Every culture, every faith, every philosophy has rituals for release. Funerals, farewells, burning letters, closing ceremonies. These are not random traditions. They exist because the human psyche needs symbolic closure. It is how we teach the brain that something has ended so we can begin again. You can create your own rituals too. Write a letter you will never send. Bury an object that holds pain. Walk a path you once walked with someone, and breathe it in alone. These small acts can reprogram the subconscious, signaling that it is time to turn the page. The deeper psychology of letting go reveals something profound. We are not just releasing the past. We are reclaiming the present. Every thought spent in yesterday is attention stolen from today. And the present moment is the only place where real healing exists. Look around. Every tree eventually sheds its leaves. Every tide retreats before it returns. Nature itself runs on cycles of letting go. If you hold on to summer, you miss autumn's beauty. If you mourn winter, you miss spring's rebirth. Perhaps we suffer not because life changes, but because we refuse to flow with it. There is a form of wisdom that comes only through loss. It humbles the ego. It shows you that you can survive what you once thought you could not. That survival is not about avoidance, but adaptation. You become softer, quieter, less reactive. You stop needing everything to last forever. You realize that impermanence does not diminish value, it gives it meaning. Imagine if every song played endlessly without ending. You would stop listening. It is the ending that makes it beautiful. The same is true of people and moments. Their transience is what makes them precious. So when life asks you to let go, it is not taking from you. It is teaching you rhythm. It is reminding you that love is not measured by permanence, but by presence. That the truest form of strength is not holding tighter, but opening wider. In time, you may start to see letting go not as loss, but as alchemy. The pain turns into insight. The tears water something unseen. You stop asking why you had to lose, and start understanding what you were meant to gain. Maybe one day you will meet the version of yourself who finally learned to stop reaching for what is gone. You will look in the mirror and see someone lighter, someone freer, someone at peace with the flow of things. That person is not perfect, but they are real. They have stopped performing healing and started living it. because letting go is not a finish line. It is a daily practice. Every morning, you wake up and choose not to carry what is too heavy. Every evening, you set down what no longer fits. It is an ongoing conversation between you and the moment. Do I still need this? And as you keep choosing peace, your heart learns the art of release. You will stop fearing endings because you will understand they are just transformations in disguise. You will stop demanding closure because you will realize the story never truly ends. It just changes form. The psychology of letting go is the psychology of freedom. When you let go of what you cannot control, you return to what you can, your perception, your presence, your purpose. You begin to see that every goodbye carries a hidden blessing. Every ending is a subtle invitation to start again. So if you are standing in the space between what was and what is next, take a breath. You do not need to rush healing. You do not need to have it all figured out. Just trust the release. Trust that what is leaving is making room for what is meant to arrive. And one day, when you least expect it, you will wake up and realize you are not holding on anymore. You will just be living, and it will feel like sunlight finally reaching a room that has been dark for far too long. Because that is what letting go really is. Not the end of love, but the beginning of peace. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe my channel. For more update,